get set up here
Mm-hmm.
a bit before other people show up.
Uh-huh.
I see that I got a message from Amarjit that he was going to
Yes,
try
yes.
to.
He had
Oh,
just,
you did too. Okay.
yes, yes. He called me a few minutes ago. Yeah.
Okay. I have to put in my host number.
Sure. Oh. Yes, Prof. I'm here at the meeting. So, आप भी कर लो, ठीक है. Yes.
Okay. I'm glad that we started
Finally,
minutes
right?
early to make sure,
Yes.
because that would have been a little bit strange. By the way, it is recording, but in the editing, this part will be out.
Okay.
So that's not an issue.
No problem.
Okay. Or at least I hope it'll be out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where are you? You're in Eastern time, so where are you?
Yes, I'm in Glenside, which is a suburb of Philadelphia.
Oh,
So it's almost 2:00, going to be 2:00 soon.
right. I've been going last month. I felt like I was more on Eastern time than Pacific. I have relatives and friends in the New York City metro area, and my son is in Rhode Island, so I was traveling a lot of places, including DC for a little trip. So I got a little jet lagged.
Oh, I am not surprised.
Yes.
Oh,
Are you still teaching?
No. I retired last year.
That sounds good.
That's good and not so good. I thought if I retire, I will be able to sit down and do nothing but write. That doesn't happen.
Oh, I thought about that too. It's not happening.
No, you have so much time, so you want to do so many other things.
Exactly. Hi, Amarjit, are you there?
Yeah, I'm trying to log in.
Oh,
you are here. We see your name.
Yes, I see his name too.
I'll try to join the video. Is video available, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll try that. Otherwise, I'll work with the audio. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you on tablet or what are you on?
No, I'm on my laptop. Yeah.
Well, your laptop, you should be able to see at the bottom the video.
Yep.
Yeah, but you can hear me and I can hear you, but when I click on launch meeting, it's not working. It'll work in a couple of minutes. You continue with your conversation. I'll join you in a minute.
Okay.
Large meeting? Where is that?
Yes. There you are.
I don't see that. Amarjit, where are you? Are you in Rhode Island or Texas?
No, I'm in Austin. I'll just give me a couple of minutes.
Okay. No problem.
Starting rainy season here, and I'm beginning to feel it.
Really? Oh.
We don't have. I'll try not to do that during.
Where are you actually? In
Seattle.
California?
Right now, I'm in Seattle. Last
Seattle.
week, for the last event, I was in DC. So that's why I do understand your issue with time. When I was trying to
That's
log in.
right.
Yes.
I was thinking it was 11:00 my time. So my son, I sent it to him, and he said, "No, Mom, it's at 2:00 your time." I said, "Thank you."
Oh, that's good. Otherwise, it would have been 8:00.
Exactly. Is it raining there? No.
Yeah, it's overcast. I'm looking out my window here and it's overcast.
Mm-hmm.
And it rained very hard last night and it's raining kind of off and on today. Hi, Tamarah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hello.
Good morning.
Tamarah is our new co-leader.
Hi, Tamarah.
It is a delight and a joy to be a co-leader with this. I will say it every single time that we meet, but I love this book and I love the stories, and the insight that the authors give is beyond words. So I'm happier than anything.
I am too. Vijay, I've been learning a lot too. I put together this book and I thought I knew what it was. But when I hear from the writers, I get all new insights and I enjoy learning from it.
So I'm trying now to, I don't know why it's not letting me. It's interesting that you can hear me,
Yes, we can.
but I can't see you and you can't see me. I'm wearing my beautiful shirt. I have to show it to you.
Oh my goodness.
We want to see your beautiful shirt.
Yes.
Maybe I should come in again. It's not letting me.
Try
click
it
on-
again.
Well, then leave and come back. Hi, Chuck.
Yeah, I think that often works well. Let me try that. So you may.
Okay.
I'm going to.
So we can see your shirt.
Right.
Oh, of course. Yeah. How can you not? Oh, wait a minute. It started working.
But we still don't see you.
No, it'll take a minute.
Okay.
It says Zoom now.
Mm-hmm.
But it needs.
Vijay, this is Charles Johnson has just joined us. He's also in the anthology.
Okay. Wow. Good to see you.
The distinguished professor and writer and novelist and essayist Charles Johnson.
I pay him to say those things. Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
He just wants to be there in his study and listen.
Yeah.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hello.
Hello.
How are
I
you?
think I have to start doing it again. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, you can come back.
Yeah, I think I'll come back because it should work.
And I see a new person who I don't know.
Pradyumna Chauhan. That's my husband who's trying to get in, but I don't.
Oh, here it is. I'm already joined you.
You
Oh,
have.
good.
Yeah. Are you able to? Let's see the video.
We can't see you.
All right. Now you can.
Yes, now we
Yes.
I'm
do.
Richard.
And we see Professor Chauhan also.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. I see Professor Chauhan. There's several people. I see Chuck and who else is here?
And Tamarah is our new co-leader.
And Stephanie.
Yes.
And Stephanie has been with us a lot. Just about every session.
And my apologies because I'm going to have to leave at 11:30 today to catch a monorail because I have a meeting at the Seattle Repertory Theater.
We'll be glad to have you now.
Thank you so much. I'm devastated that I have to leave early, but what can you do?
Stephanie is an actress, among many other things.
And Earth Grammy.
I wanted you to say that.
Thank you.
She has a YouTube series called Earth Grammy, which is a very accessible way of presenting environmental issues and climate change and things you can do about it in everyday life.
Yeah.
That kind of summarizes it.
And we just have a brand new website called earthgrammy.com that just launched yesterday or the other day.
Yes.
So we're still working on it. It's still a work in progress.
Okay, Tamarah, do you know if we're waiting for other people?
Let me check really fast.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 other people that are registered for today.
Oh, okay.
That's what I thought. There might be others.
I think we should get started, and especially uh, since the co-leader has to leave soon, and then people can. when they can
Tamarah
come.
is the new co-leader.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry.
Stephanie is the participant.
Yeah. Okay, Stephanie has to leave. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Where's my pen?
So
You
maybe
can wait a couple
maybe
of
Vijay should start.
I-
I don't know
wanna
what
get
you have in
started?
Put me
mind.
on the spot, Amrit, huh?
Yes, that's what he's doing to you.
I know.
That's what he does.
Smart, huh? Love
My
the
Okay.
sport.
my signature method.
Wait a minute. What Amrit, what am I seeing there? Have you become a Texan?
Uh, well, actually, this is a New York hat.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I
Oh,
didn't see the top. I didn't see what it was.
Yeah,
Okay.
but most of the time I don't wear the turban.
Hmm.
Oh,
It's
okay.
convenient to have the baseball cap.
Okay.
That makes
But
sense.
if I have to go to a formal occasion, I did a couple of days ago to a gathering surrounded around two organic farmers who were visiting from India.
Mm,
So I
Oh.
did wear my brown turban.
good.
Okay.
I think Vijay likes to see me in my turban.
I do.
Yes.
You look, well, you look good anyway, but in a turban you look even more distinguished, Amrit.
Those of you who aren't aware, Charles Johnson and I went to India with Amarjit.
Mhm.
I think Vijay probably knows that. So we saw him in his turban every day,
Yes.
Oh,
and this is unusual.
new look, new look.
Yeah.
right. This is the new look.
Yeah.
Casual.
Yeah, what is Walt Whitman? You know, I wear my hat indoors and outdoors,
Mm.
and you know, I'm belong to that tradition.
Okay. Okay, maybe we can get started,
Yeah.
and I will say just a little bit about Vijay that I know of from reading her bio. And that is Vijay Lakshmi was born and educated in India. She came to the United States as a senior Fulbright fellow to do her postdoctoral work at Yale. By then, she had already published Virginia Woolf as literary critic and nearly 24 scholarly articles in various journals. Vijay Lakshmi started writing fiction after coming to America, and her first short story collection, Pomegranate Dreams and Other Stories, was published in 2002, and then later again, I suppose, in 2004. Her short fiction has been published in several international journals and anthologies, of course, including What's Next. And in 2019, she published her first book for young adults, My Dogly Days. And Vijay, I don't know what a dogly day is, so maybe you can tell us later what that
Sure.
means. Okay. Do you want to say something about your story? Today we're talking about After the Fire.
After the fire, yes. You know, actually, the story, we had a fire in our house, but not that the story was really born out of that, but I kept thinking about it, and somehow it led me to relive the experience, and then I wrote it. Actually, it is about a woman who's recently separated from her husband, and she receives an early morning call that their home is on fire. Could she come? She says no. But then reluctantly, she just cannot help herself and she makes her way to the house. The story renders a heartbreak account of one's burned home. More importantly, though, it reveals her inner turmoil at what their marriage has done to her, to him, and to their children. So that's where then it's also like a reverie. She sits there and relives all the good and bad moments of their marriage, and the end you have to figure out for yourself. I can, if you want, I'll read to it, but that is I'll leave it to the reader. Yes.
Oh, that's not fair. But anyway, what can you give this a little bit of context? From what I understand of reading this, these are first generation people in the United States.
Yes.
Does that have anything to do with the way they relate to each other?
It's a very good question. I think when we come here as immigrants, especially the first generation immigrants, there is a lot of juggling in the relationships that you have to do. You have to do a lot. And it is there that in the process, one can get lost, as my heroine does, because she has a job, she has a career, and then she begins to assert her independence and separates from her husband. They are not divorced though. Then, but that it doesn't end there. It can't be that clear cut. So when the house burns, she comes there, and as I said, she relives everything, and that is where the whole thing begins to grow on her. Was it right? Whose fault was it? What went wrong? And that's where, while she's there, her husband also, he sees her car parked on the street, so he comes in and joins her. And that to me is the most important moment, when they start talking about what went wrong, and both of them talk about it, and but on different levels. One is talking about the fire and electric circuit that must have sparked a fire, and the other one talks about the breaking relationship, how it is destroyed. So that is what they do undergo.
I have to say, for me personally, in reading that there are a couple of sections in which you do that. And I think you do it beautifully, the way you have the level of the material, the house.
Thank you.
And then you have another one talking about the emotional content.
Exactly.
The relationship. And I think that was beautifully done. Actually, I think that has a lot to do with what the story might be about. It's not, I maybe because this isn't my experience, I'm not an immigrant. I was born in this country, so I don't know. But I don't read this as an immigrant story. I read it more as a relationship story.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to
get
that understood.
Yeah, because it can work on many levels, Sharyn. It is a relationship between a husband and wife, and yet in the background is that they are immigrants, and then there is the neighborhood, and what do they understand, what do they know. So that is how it begins to develop.
Yes. I think Stephanie had something.
Yeah. Yes. Excuse me. I thought it was very interesting that at the very end of the story, I'm saying it's hopeful because for the first time, there's a touch between them. He would not have known that there were tears. So that means that he has had to touch her, which he hasn't touched her in years.
They've been separated.
So in a way, it sounds like the house might be rebuilt and they might be together again. But it seems that I thought that was a very nuanced element in the story at the very, very end.
Thank you.
I applaud you for that.
And the way he touches her face, it's accidental, maybe. It's maybe he wanted to. So that's for the reader to decide.
But he sat down next to her. He didn't
exactly.
He could have left, or he could have sat somewhere else, but he was very close to her.
No, he went and sat next to her. So because the relationship between a husband and wife, it's so tenuous. You'd never know. It can be shattered in 1 minute, and yet there are certain skeins that hold it together. So that's what I was trying to, I think, capture.
But the daughters grown?
Sorry?
Were the daughters grown up and gone on their own?
Yes, they are not living there.
Okay. There are so many levels here. And I think maybe we should take a look. First of all, why a fire? Why did you choose a fire? Why is that so dominant in the story?
Okay, that's a very, very good question. There was a fire in our house, Sharyn. before I wrote the story. But if you ask me, did that fire have anything to do with it? No, because that was forgotten and I didn't think about it till one day I sat down and started reliving that. And then when I looked at that, I said, oh yes, it has more than just a fire, because it brought them together. They had been separated for such a long time, and there is an inner turmoil which she has to, and probably he too has to overcome. So that was how I was beginning to look at it.
So the fire
Yes.
might have some kind of representation in their relationship.
Fire must have a relationship. Explain
No,
that.
I'm not saying it must, but can it in some ways?
Yes, yeah, probably. You know, as a writer, when you write, you don't think of all the nuances and the levels. But now that you say, yes, probably the creative process is so complex that you just do what comes into it. It's also unconscious. But now that you mention it, yes, the fire is an important element.
To me, it has to be.
Yes, I agree with you.
Because that's what is framing the story.
Yeah.
But isn't the fire kind of symbolic of the destruction of the marriage completely?
Yes.
And it's burned to the ground, so to speak.
Yes. And yet Phoenix, like, you don't know when it
Exactly.
rise again.
Out of the ashes.
Yeah, out of the ashes, right. I got you.
Fire
Thank you.
could be more than just the destruction of the relationship. Fire also symbolizes in some ways passion. It also can symbolize the relationship itself. So, and I'm also thinking of that little poem by Robert Frost, Fire and Ice. Is I was shared with a few people, including Vijay. Kind of a sad, I mean, very pessimistic view of life. Which is the better way to destroy the world, fire or ice? And he says, well, you know, fire is better, but if he was pushed to a choice, he may choose ice too. That works as well. So I think fire is works in multiple ways in the story, even though they may not be all explored fully.
Exactly.
Each of those possible.
Yeah. So it also leaves, when this woman comes here, it leaves her with certain questions that which is past, can it be retrieved? Can it be salvaged? Can the ghost be put to rest? Does life offer you another chance? And if it does, are you ready to take it? So these are some of the questions I thought that the story raises in the end.
Yes, and also it's interesting that Amarjit brought up fire and ice, because you do have the element of ice in this story. It is the cold of winter, and they go out into this frigid area, or at least the husband does, or the almost ex-husband, in his slippers and PJs.
Yes.
So he's freezing. Exactly. And the neighbor knows it.
Yes.
So that is an interesting element. I don't know if you knew that you were doing it, but I think Amarjit brought up a good point with that poem. That also brings up the neighbors. And the neighbors are kind of, they're American, and they're
you mean they are white Americans?
Yes.
I wasn't putting that category on them.
Yeah, well then this couple is also American. If they are immigrant, that doesn't mean they are not American.
Okay, native born American, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
they were raised in this particular culture, whereas what happens, I understand where you're going, but with this story, what seems to be happening is Uma is giving a contrast from her own background, and saying, well, you know, this is the way these people, these Americans are dealing with it. And if I were back home in India, this is the way they would deal with it. That's the comparison that I was getting.
Yes.
I certainly understand, but anyway, I want to go with that. There is this contrast with them. Any reason for putting that in? Why are the neighbors there?
Oh, yes. You know, when I did it, I don't know what I was thinking, but now that you ask me and I think back, I thought there has to be some other element as well. These people are not living in a vacuum. So there is the neighborhood, and obviously the neighbor seemed to be more fond of the man than this woman, because at one point she says, I had met her, she had met the neighbor in the grocery store, and there was a very clipped hello, and that's all. But they were more fond of the man also. So that brings another element into it. And I think the neighbors are very significant in the sense that they are objective. They are looking at these people. So while they are in some ways involved, but they're also looking at it from a distance. So I thought that would give it another perspective.
Yes, they are. They're looking at it literally from a different perspective. They're across the street looking at the house.
Yeah.
Stephanie?
Yeah, I have a question. It's interesting that he got the house. Normally, you know, that made me think of, again, were the girls, the daughters living with him?
No.
There's something that was intriguing.
Okay, that was fuzzy. No, the woman moved away. She moved out. She went and started living in an apartment.
But she could have kept the house.
Yeah. The husband is still living there. The girls are studying somewhere in a school. And as at one point he says they couldn't come for Christmas because they had gone on a trip to Mexico and so on. So the husband probably has been living there, holding fort, as it were. But the woman has completely cut herself off. It is she who will not go back. It is she who thinks that when they were not eating together and not going out together, not being together. So it was only the daily rituals of life that had them together as husband and wife, but there was no bonding, nothing left. And therefore she thought it was better to move out. But she doesn't want her mother to know that in India. She tells him, don't tell my mother. So the mother doesn't know she's separated. The mother won't know about the fire because then there would be more complications. So she
what would those complications be? Maybe you can explain.
Yes, if the mother knew, first of all, the mother would be so heartbroken, terribly upset that the daughter had separated from her husband. It is not something that is taken lightly. And therefore, she has never told her that. She has moved away, but her mother doesn't know that. And she never, that's why she tells her husband also, don't tell her about the fire also. And he says, no, I won't. Because that would break her heart. That the daughter, she's away in a foreign country, and she's no longer living with her husband. And also, according to the Indian tradition and culture, that would be very, very disturbing for her.
Okay, so she's.
Chuck, did you have a?
I have a question. Yeah. I think the story powerfully delivers her pain. Her pain.
Okay.
At the failure or dissolution of this marriage. Anybody who's gone through a divorce,
yes,
I think can identify.
Yes.
So my question is, what happened to these two people? Why did they begin to drift apart and not do things together anymore? When they first met, for example,
yes,
were they attracted to each other? And
Yes.
did they lose sight of what that individual attraction was? Him
Mhm.
for her, and
Yeah.
her for him.
Uh-huh.
Is there still a spark of that left?
Uh,
It seems that they have lost interest in each other.
exactly.
And
Because
why is that? Yes, go ahead.
no, you're fine. What you're saying just makes sense. The thing is that the woman, because she has a job and she's doing very well, and the irony is that she's doing, selling houses or I forget,
Mortgage.
mortgages
Just
and
one
so on. So
mortgage.
that we're having houses and her own house has broken or home has broken. So to me, that was a central point. And the thing is that why this has happened, why they have sort of turned away from each other. At one point in the story, she says that these had become rituals. And then later on, when there was no communication between them, what were they doing? Leaving messages written on the board. Plumber is going to come today, and this is broken or this is done. So when even the daily living, I mean, the connection between your daily thoughts and rituals is broken, what is there left? Nothing. So she decides to move out. She's the determining factor, not the husband so much. She has decided, no, I'm not going to stay here. I'm going to go away. And she does.
I think what you're talking about makes the story very universal.
Mm-hmm.
Across cultures,
Yes,
it's
sir.
easy to identify
Mm-hmm.
what happened to these two people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I'll let somebody else say something.
No,
yeah,
you.
I was going to add to what Chuck brought up.
Mm-hmm.
And is a very
Mm-hmm.
sensitive reference to those of us who have gone through divorce. When even those daily rituals become almost non-existent,
Yes.
even those rituals don't happen.
Yes.
As long as you are messaging or having a cup of tea together, or having a meal together. But even when those begin to disappear,
Mm-hmm.
then she's right. There is nothing, and it doesn't matter the gender of
Yes.
the person who finally sees it. Sometimes it can take 20 years to realize that this is not going to improve.
Yes.
So,
And
so even
I'm not referring to anyone specific.
Yeah.
Chuck. So I think Stephanie's reading of the ending is a little more hopeful than the story suggests. I don't think there is life in this marriage, this relationship, despite the kind of very suggestive ending. I think this is a finished relationship as far as Yeah, Chuck, you wanted to say more. Yeah.
I was just going to add that what held them together was the kind of quotidian, everyday responsibilities, raising children, and taking care of a household. But they're both living, even though physically in the same space, they're living with loneliness.
Yes.
And both of them. And she says something about that,
Yes.
lonely to the very roots of her hair.
Of her hair, yes.
That's a very powerful image.
Thank you.
Yeah. But she does leave. She does leave the home.
But she comes back.
She comes back only because of the fire.
Fire.
She didn't have to come back.
No, and she comes back again later.
Yeah.
So that gave me a more hopeful. I guess we were reading this differently. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think
Well,
and the
I
fact
think
that
we all read it through
different perspectives.
our own personal experiences too.
Well, not really, but
No, I think our own backgrounds, our own experiences come into play when we are reading a story like this.
Yep.
yes.
But the fact that for the first time in their relationship, it seems, in a long time, there is touch.
Yeah.
And that's and she cries for the first time.
Yes.
these are changed things that have changed from before. And maybe there's hope, maybe not, but I think it's.
Well,
Yeah, those are the questions that
Yeah, Stephanie, I would like to have that.
answer. And
Yeah,
it's
I have-
also, yeah,
I,
go
I,
ahead,
I just
sorry.
had an observation, I guess, when I was reading this. She
Mhm.
was talking about all of their possessions being strewn about for public view. And it was sort of like, okay, this marriage, it struck me, it must have been unraveling
Mhm.
in quiet. It was quiet, nobody knew about it, nobody heard about it, whatever. And then suddenly all of this is revealed to the public after this fire. And it's sort of that humiliation of being exposed. Maybe the fact that they weren't divorced, they were just separated. That was sort of a transition period or something, maybe, I don't know. But then suddenly it becomes all very public. And that seems like an additional kind of burden or humiliation for her.
Mhm.
That's an excellent point. Yeah,
Yes.
all the stuff on the street.
Yes.
Because often neighbors can't find out what's going on in their relationship next door. It's very hard because things kind of look okay. They seem normal because the couple is very good at hiding
Right.
what's that's going on in their lives. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
guess-
Also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Vijay.
But because it's in America, where the neighbors don't sort of interfere with your lives, and they are not too sort of nosy about it. But in India, it wouldn't have been that way.
Exactly. I agree
They
with
said,
that.
hey, come on, where is he? Why aren't you living together? Did he visit you today? Or what? Something of that kind. So it's also where you are living and what is happening. And so in America, it would be different.
You do mention that it would be more communal in India.
Yes. And therefore not easily breakable too.
I'm sorry?
And so if it is more communal, then it can't be broken that easily too. Because it's sort of because of the neighbors or community or family, you do hang in together, even though you do not want to, or even though it may not be feasible. But here, of course, you can't go your way. I'm going mine.
Well, that's interesting. Hey,
I think I noticed that too. We were living in Brazil for several months, and I was kind of shocked at how communal the whole experience was, in a sense, because the friends, their family, everybody became sort of wrapped up with each other in each other's pockets, so to speak. And there was absolutely no, if you wanted to get away, I realized, wow, this must be an American trait, because sometimes I thought, I just have to get away. I need to be alone.
Yeah.
I need to, this is just too much. And they'd say, oh, no, you need to be with people. You must be sad. And it's like, no, I just am overwhelmed. And so, but there was something I was really struck by how different the attitudes were. And, so this seemed very normal to me when that they were saying about that if in India that this would have all been part of the family
because
concern.
Exactly, because your business at some point becomes everybody's business. So people will say, hey, come on, where is she? Where are you? What's happening? But here, more privacy, people don't interfere with your life, and therefore, in a way, more difficult as well.
More difficult, and there might be, I think, did Prajuma have a question? Or
Prof, yes?
You have to unmute yourself.
Professor?
I do have a question. Can you hear me?
No.
Prof, do you have a question?
He needs to unmute himself if he wants to ask.
Yes. Prof, you have to unmute. We can't hear you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes. Well,
because it relates to what you were just talking about with the life in India or outside of America. You made me just wonder, was this an arranged marriage?
Yes.
It was. I think that kind of adds a different light, maybe, to why the story unfolds the way that it does when she comes here. And she has the possibility of greater freedom, you know, to pursue her own needs and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I think that might be an important element to the story.
Yeah.
They were brought together in India by their families as young people, maybe.
Yes. And once they come here, then, you know, it happens so often that the woman grows up and grows away. That's what has happened with her. She has her own career now. She has more confidence. She has more freedom. So she has moved away while the husband is still there. And in the beginning, as she says, it was wonderful. They would light candles and everything was so wonderful. They were in love, everything. But then gradually that diminishes and they grow away from each other. So that is what has happened.
But I'm just wondering, you know, during the some aspects of the feminist movement with the idea of, you know, getting a job and getting out there and doing your own thing and having your own life, all of that.
Yes.
Women then got, well, some women anyway, got to a point where they realized that wasn't enough. You know, like devoting yourself only to your career or only to your, you know, your goals or whatever, just wasn't enough. You needed something more. And I'm just wondering if this character, if this narrator, Uma, is getting to that place, I mean, besides the relationship, but in herself, getting to a place where she needs to feel, you know, I mean, that's what it comes to. Just she needs to be able to get to another level of who she is.
Yes, yes.
Because you have this great description of how she's doing well as a mortgage person, and she's in her career, and she's fine with that. She goes to work, and it seems like she's actually losing herself in that. Like she goes to the house after the fire. She sees it, and then she doesn't go back for, what is it, a week? I think it is. And then because she's saying that she really needs to get into work, and that way she can forget everything. So I'm just wondering if she's personally getting to a point where she feels this just isn't enough. She might not know it, you know, that's why I'm using the word feel. She might feel it.
Right.
And the other thing is that she's doing mortgages. I mean, this is like a whole abstraction in itself, and it's all numbers. It has nothing to do with people, really.
So Pradumna wants to say something.
Prof, say.
Are you unmuted, sir?
He is unmuted.
You know what? If you don't mind, I'll just go downstairs and see.
Or maybe he can write it in the chat.
He just said that he would like to make some
comment. A couple of I'll be back in just 1 minute.
Now, part of me wonders about the policies of our culture.
And Diane, maybe you can wait for her to come back.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
While she's away, I just want to say I want to thank Diane for being the co-leader for so long and for really getting this program going. She did so much good work in getting it started and continuing with it, and I appreciate that. I had already announced Tamarah before you showed up.
Tamarah.
So as the new person. So I just want to make that clear, that I appreciate your work.
Thank you. Tamarah's going to do a better job, so yay.
Well, she has a different perspective. She's the literary person here.
I know I have so much to say before we're done about dramatic narrative and
yes. Okay.
Like it's blowing me away, the whole thing. So, but it's like all about
Me too with this story. I agree. Someone else had a person who I don't know that's showing up as Duvall.
That's Gail.
Yeah, that's me, Gail Duvall.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. You had I think I saw a hand up in your.
Oh no, I was just clapping for the
Oh,
work
I'm
that
sorry.
Diane had done. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I wonder what happened to his connection, but she needs to come back.
Yeah, by the way, my friend Pradyumna Chauhan, we are waiting for him. I can say a word or two about him.
Okay.
He's retired 2 years ago at the age of 90
90.
from what used to be Beavers College, and it's now Arcadia University in Glenside, Pennsylvania. So he's 92 now.
Wow.
He'll be 93. Yeah, he just turned 92 in August, I think.
I'm so sorry, I couldn't help him, so I'm back.
Okay. Is he able to ask his questions though?
I told him that why don't you, but I think. Wait,
Oh, there he is.
Prof, are you there? No. Here, connecting.
Maybe he can write it in the chat.
That's what I was. Yeah, Prof, I can write it. Can you hear us? Your
Well,
voice.
that's okay. He can write it in the chat.
You can write it, Prof.
And then we'll get it that way. But there were some other questions that came up when you were away.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
No, that's okay. We didn't follow through with that. Okay, I think Diane had one first.
Well, I was just going to ask questions about how the culture and the policies, not governmental policies independently, impact all of the relationships. Because, first we have the community, but then we also have policies. And
what policies are you referring to? There are no policies involved, only social practices.
Okay. Then there are none.
No, there's no policy governing this relationship. No government policy. These are social practices, and they change. Chuck was saying about what happens in India. It can happen here too. Your ethnic friends will want to intervene. Of course, often unsuccessfully, because they get concerned and everybody is willing to offer you advice and intervention, and they want to save your marriage. But they have no idea how bad the marriage has been for such a long time. So there are no easy solutions. Whether you live in India and deal with this situation, or you live in a community which is not predominantly ethnic. You have some ethnic people. For an Indian couple, even a Chinese friend, more than a white American friend, may want to intervene because they have a sense of similar values and practices, their culture, but there are no government policies involved anywhere.
No.
Can I ask then, Amrajit or Vijay? I remember in being in India that there were so many different cultures.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just wondering, when we use the word Indian, that kind of puts them all together, and I'm not sure. Is that a fair assessment to do that? To say that all the different cultures in India, or at least the ones that this couple would come from, which I don't know.
I'll let Vijay respond. I can say something, but Vijay should take.
I think it's irrespective of community or caste or creed. Some of the things are in India are dictated, you could say, or expected by the community. The policies, I don't think, as Amrit said, the policy has to do anything with it. But yes, the community does.
Okay, so
I just want to address it
I
again.
just want to, I'll get to that. I just, so I understand, so following up with that, you're saying all the cultures, or at least most of them in India, would follow that particular way of being.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Because you see, it is a
yeah.
tradition that has been passed over generations.
Okay.
If you look at the present generation, contemporary, at the young generation today, maybe it has shifted. Maybe they have changed. They have become more independent. So it may not be the same that was for me or my mother or grandmother. But on the whole, yes, as far as possible, we would like to stick to that.
Okay.
And there could be.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, let's hear from.
Amrit, then Diane, then.
Yes, Prof. Go ahead.
No,
This
but
is,
just let Amrit finish.
no, well, Dr. Chauhan, I'm very eager to hear him.
Sharyn, I find, first of all, let me compliment you for organizing the occasion, and very interesting set of critics and authors interested, and therefore bringing different points of view to bear on a piece of fiction.
Thank you.
That's how it should be. But then I find that because of the ethnicity of the writer, the story is being boxed in some ways. Look at that subject. It is husband and wife, interactions between them. The theme is as old as the story of Adam and Eve. There is nothing particularly limiting here. The names are just names. You remember that Shakespeare's statement about the poet's mind. A poet's mind in a fine frenzy rolling doth glance from heaven to earth and earth to heaven, and gives to fairy nothings a local name and habitation. So, if
No, I thoroughly agree with you. And that's why I'm only looking at the ethnicity of the characters because the characters themselves bring it up. That's my reason. But what I said
as a reader, find some wires awakened in me. So my mind then, as a reader's curiosity, asks, why is that so? What is in it for me?
Yes.
In other words, my ethnicity or color or education or culture falls off. I'm merely a reading intellect. And at that moment, the subject becomes universal to me. It's a cosmic experience. And therefore, if we read literature as a common heritage of mankind, then we will find that there are resonances here which vibrate every kind of reader. Otherwise, communication would be difficult in the world. So, first of all, my objection was to the direction into which the discussion was going, though it's very normal in the days of woke culture and attacks on cultures. So, in other words, it's very normal for discussion to drift into that direction.
You have no idea how much I agree with you.
I know.
I thoroughly agree with you on that. And that's why I chose her story to be in my book.
Thank you.
I thoroughly agree with you.
Yes.
That if a story doesn't have resonance, or any work of art doesn't have resonance with other people outside of whatever culture that particular artist came from, then how is it functioning in the world? So I agree with you completely. But understand my only reason for bringing that up was to understand the characters as they're written a little bit better.
Yeah,
That's
yes,
why,
sure.
because
Sure.
Vijay brings that into the story. She gives a comparison there. She says how it would be in India and how it would be here.
Yes.
So that's why I brought that up.
Mm.
Not to dwell on the ethnicity.
Oh, no,
Actually,
no.
I mean, as an aside, the same thing happens with Black writers. We're
Yes.
a lot of times put into a box, and we don't like it. Many of us don't like it.
Sharyn,
Not all, but many don't.
Yeah.
So I understand completely what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't mean my comments to be criticism.
No, it's not criticism, and I'm very glad you brought it up because I think it's very important.
It is the professor in me that can't keep silent for too long a time.
No, I heard that you retired, so you're still a professor.
Thank you.
I think I saw another hand somewhere, or somebody
I
else.
would love to
Oh, Tamarah. Okay.
rain just a little bit before we're done. It's so interesting. As Professor was talking, it was reminding me of what Aristotle said in Poetics, that the greatest thing by far is to have the command of metaphor. This alone cannot be imparted by another. It is the mark of genius. For to make good metaphors implies an eye for resemblances. And I think that that is what I read in this story this is a universal truth of heartbreak, and it is a universal theme of marriage and the breakdown of marriage. And it was the little things that helped me see the difference between how it's like she was not allowed to tell her mother, and like for me it's like that would never happen. It's like my mom would probably be like the first one to know. Or I would like my daughter, if something happened, it's like she needs to come to me first. It's like that. And so that is something that is different. And that was very important from my perspective. But I think that the most fascinating thing in this was the style in which you wrote it, because this was hardly a short story. This was a letter. And this was a dramatic narrative. The first word in the story was your words. You didn't start in a setting. You didn't start by world building. The first thing in her mind in this story was her husband's words. That was the most important thing to her. And so as I read this was her letter to her husband, which makes it even more profound when on page 136 it said you started leaving messages. And so this was a response to her. You could have started this by saying, dear husband, your words are fire. You could have started it very easily that way and nothing would have changed. But using the second person is such a intimate, just a painfully intimate form of writing. I am extremely not interested in sharing my emotions at all, which, my husband, he draws it out because he loves emotions so much. And he's just like, how are you feeling? I'm just like, I don't want to talk about it. He's like, well, you are. And, it's like wine helps. But it is such an intimate form of writing, and it's so thorough that at the end we have spaces, we have private spaces, we have public spaces, we have vulnerable spaces, but at the very end they are in such a liminal space, and that's where they're able to finally talk to each other. It isn't in the home, and it isn't outside, it isn't next door. It's in a very, very small liminal space, which is in between spaces. And that was finally where they were able to talk, and as opposed to write letters. And that it was just so wonderfully profound, because in every scene it needs to be emotionally charged. And especially in short stories, that's so hard because you have to remove so much in order to tell the story. And this was just so sculpted to that point that when we got to that point, it was, my response was, of course, this is exactly where it would be. It's like, it would feel, you know, odd if she walked away or if he never showed up. And it's like, this was the story. This was exactly what the story should have been. So that, when I read it, it was just such a beautiful flow. So
Thank you.
just lovely.
Great interpretation.
Thank you. I like that. It's also like a dramatic monologue.
Yeah.
So that brings out all that is said and was left unsaid. That's the beauty of a dramatic monologue. So that's what I was thinking when I wrote it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes
Like Robert Browning's Last Ride Together, for example, right? So it's a dramatic monologue. He's addressing the woman, but they are about to part and they are riding, and he just says, "Let me have one last ride together with you." So that was some of the things that I was thinking, perhaps.
Go read that.
Jess, you were wondering how come that their love fades away. I think by now we know that all love sullies after a while. Some shine disappears. And the finesse of the story is that it points out exactly to the keys which brought about this change. That participating community of activities in the home, they disappeared, they fell apart. And so people went their own ways. So I would read it as a paradigm of what happens in the hectic life of cities, where people are chasing their own dreams, their own personal dreams, or their own perfections, or their own achievements. And then the communal bonds begin to loosen up. And when that happens, children go one way, husband goes another way, wife goes the third way. So the things that hold them together, they have to be kept alive. In other words, people have to work at the marriage. And if they become negligent about that, then they ought to be ready for the fire.
But this is after the fire, and I'm kind of wondering about that. It's after the fire. It, as you said in the beginning, Vijay, it could go either way, right? They could say, okay, as Prof was saying, the shine is gone. The shiny area has gone. But maybe they're beginning to see a new development, a new stage of the relationship. That could be happening. The other part is, yes, they could just say, okay, now that we've had our good cry, we can leave. So it could really go either way.
Yes.
I guess that fits in with the book, right? What's next?
Sharyn, why can't there be another implication?
Yes, of course.
It is in life together, they had been walking like somnambulists. It is the fire that wakes them up and makes them realize what happened. So, in other words, that explosive event is the cause of their waking up, not so much of the husband, as wives recognizing the pattern that they had been moving into this direction. the stupid husband is still thinking of wires and frayed things and sparks. This seems to be too literal. And what Tamarah was saying, the metaphoric grasp is the quality of a keen mind. And he can't say that. That's why there is such a double entendre, that there's double irony there. What he's saying is correct, but its interpretation of the insidious fire that's destroyed the temple of their love, that he isn't able to grasp. That also is a piece of explanation why they drifted apart, because she was more sensitive and he was less so. That he could think of only prosaic things and therefore didn't understand the implications of his acts, his words. In other words, I find that interesting, the note at which that ends. Fire has, though, while you were talking earlier, I couldn't step in. Fire also means cleansing agent. So in a way, this fog that was around the life and they couldn't see what had been happening to them or why that was happening, fire clears that at least for one of the two persons. So there is a possibility that the other might come away too. So fire is a purifying agent, clearing agent, but fire is also a sacred flame before which people swear.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because fire is used in many religious rituals.
Yes,
for that reason.
Yes.
So that was something that I thought of. I didn't know if that was actually intended. That's why I asked Vijay in the beginning about the fire and what it meant to her. But it is something I thought of too. I know that it is used in many religious rituals.
Yes,
that's true.
And you want the smoke to clear it. The smoke, when they get together, the smoke is gone. The ashes are left.
Correct.
And as she was saying before, or some of you were saying, rising from those ashes,
Yes.
is a possibility. And that, even if they don't get, even if literally they don't get back together, they're both rising in a way. They both have to start over again.
Yes.
They have to. They have no house, so they have to start over again. I really think that that last segment of the story, where you have the conversation, is just so beautifully done, where you have the material and the emotional, in contrast there. It's really lovely.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Did anyone else have something to say before we end?
I think this was a good discussion.
Thank you.
Yes, very good.
It's very helpful to me also as a writer, because when you write, you don't think of all those layers of meaning that are embedded in there, but then people read it and they discuss it and say, oh yes, yeah, of course. But I wasn't conscious of all that when I was writing it. They just sort of get embedded. And so thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you for being here. I think I agree with Chuck that this was a very good conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this.
I'm glad all of you were able to come here, and Amarjit and Stephanie too. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharyn.
Okay, thank you. I'm so glad you're in the book.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Have a great day. Everyone, thank you again. Sure. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.